Hi, I'm Lani, and today we'll have another topic to discuss. This topic is one of approaches in teaching literature. Before we jump to our discussion or to our topic, I want you to think the last information or the last text or the last context or story that you had read. How did you read it? I guess some of you read it loudly or some of you read it silently. Maybe my answers are correct or wrong. But let's focus to the word silently or silent. Hearing this word, what comes in your mind? From the word silent, we can imagine a place or a scenario that there is no music, no sound, or no noise. There is no mouth that is talking, that is whispering, or that is singing. So, from the word silent, so silent, we cannot hear anything. We cannot hear the television from our neighbor. We cannot hear the chicken that is singing from our neighbor, and we cannot hear the radio that using by our grandfather. So from the word silent, silencio, be quiet. So if we combine the word silently plus reading equals silently reading or reading silent. So what is silent reading, by the way? Silent reading. This is a kind of reading. A reading skill that is just reading without words. I mean, without a noise, without a voice, or without pronouncing a word coming out from our mouth. So one of the definition of silent reading is that silent reading is also called as independent reading. Means that when you use silent reading, when teacher required all to use silent reading in the classroom, that is, all of you is not depending by each other to read, but you are depending by your own self. Means you are independent to do reading. So you're not depending to your classmates, to your seatmates when you are reading the text, but you are independently depending by your own self that you need to do the task. So, silent reading is that a reading without pronouncing words out loud. The reader reads silently. It is more reading inside the head and mind. So, it is easier to understand what is silent reading. In silent reading, who do you think is the founder? There's a lot of information when we are searching who is the founder in silent reading. But based on the information I had searched, it was claimed that Saint Ambrose was the founder or who invented the silent reading. So who is this Saint Ambrose? Let's talk all about Saint Ambrose. Well, Saint Ambrose is Ambrose of Milan, venerated as Saint Ambrose, was the Bishop of Milan, a theologian and one of the most influential ecclesiastical figures of the 4th century. Ambrose is also remembered as a teacher who converted and baptized Saint Augustine de Hippo. He is a patron saint of Milan. He is known as the founder or who invented the silent reading because of his action, of his on how he read a book or a text or a piece. And during his time, Saint Ambrose is just only skimming or just only reading text using his eyes and converted into his mind. So when he read something, he puts it in solely solely in himself. So others may think that he is the first person, he is the person who invented this silent reading. So when was silent reading was published, or when was silent reading was born? Do you know? Based on the research, well, there is no specific date, time, year when was this silent reading was invented. But based on the research I had, that in 19th century, silent reading was commonly used by the Western, and now we are commonly used also as this century. As we are in our 21st century, we are using the silent reading. So now let's jump about this silent reading and connect to our teaching literature. So why is it silent reading is important as an approach in teaching literature? Well, silent reading have lots of benefits to a learner or even to a reader. Through silent reading, we save much time in reading. We did actually read the text through our minds and eyes, and it saves energy. So it relaxes our mouth that we are using when we are reading loudly. So, like when reading loudly, we use our vocal and mouth. We know that in literature, there are literary pieces that we need to take time to read and analyze. By the help of silent reading, it helps the learner to be focused on what she or he is reading. It helps him or her to create an imaginative concept where how she or he is able to understand the content. And also in silent reading, we cannot disturb anyone who is reading also. So you can focus, others can focus also. Silent reading in school commonly used in the library. How did you read in your library? I hope you are reading in your library as silent as possible. Because in the library, there is a note here that silence please. So the place that you wanted to do, you wanted to go inside the campus is library, because in library you can definitely focus in studying and then avoid distraction from others, and then you can feel at peace. So now, silent reading really benefits to a reader or a learner. But wait, in silent reading, there is disadvantages. So what are these advantages? Disadvantages. Like, we all know that in silent reading, it is an independent reading, wherein some one of the students could have problem. Yes, independent reading, you're not depending from anyone, but you're depending by yourself. How about when that learner is not really totally know how to read? So it is really a disadvantage. If we wanted to do, we are aiming that the students can read very fast and can understand what she is reading in the given limited time. But yet, that student cannot read because she or he is a problem in reading. So this is really a limitation to those teachers who wanted to use silent reading in the class. So now, there are three basic structures requirement in silent reading. First one is the recognition of the word. So the student must recognize the word. She or he would face will read in the text, and then he or she must understand what the phrase is all about, or what is the meaning of the text she or he is reading. And then lastly is the pronouncing of the word. Because in silent reading, we can conclude to ourselves that what if I am reading reading the word beautiful, but others can read it as beautiful. So it would be very hard, right, to the beginners when upon using this silent reading. So it must be guided. So the disadvantage also in silent reading is that the teacher couldn't notice or couldn't know if the student is really reading. Because when you, as a teacher, when you give the task to a student to to read the book silently, you cannot know if this student really read the book if this student really read the book, because as we all know that silent reading, we're just using our minds and our eyes. So he or she could just act that he is reading using her or his eyes like this. Just moving the eyes from the left to the right, and then left to the right, and go to the left and to the right. Well, the teacher makes think that the student is reading. So it is really uneasy to determine if the student is reading. In silent reading, it helps also our learner to be, it helps also our learner in their cognitive skills and how they can create imaginative in what they are reading. But there are some parts of the text that they will read that they are less of information, like their vocabulary. They are not really they're not into expanding their vocabulary, because some of the learners are not really good in memorizing, or yeah. So there would be disadvantage when a student who is reading silently, because there would be circumstances that a student, when she or he is reading some of words he cannot understand, the outcome of it is that he or she cannot understand the whole text. Or maybe if she or he is having a very higher thinking level skills and how logical he can read a text, well, she or he can definitely understand what it's mean. But when the person has really had a hard time and problem in developing her in his cognitive skills, so it would be having a problem when it comes in understanding what the word means. So we need it needs a guidance, or it just need a book or a dictionary beside him when she or he is reading. So that's it. So now in silent reading, before the teacher would require silent reading in the classroom, the teacher will teach how silent reading how silent reading to do. There are procedures how silent reading to do in the classroom.
So these are the procedures or the steps in silent reading. First is teacher discusses the aim of silent reading and benefits, so that the students would be encouraged and then got interest in silent reading. Well, this silent reading is not only the good for the teacher but also for the learner. And then next is time is allocated for reading approximately 10 to 20 minutes a day. This is a good practice so that the learner really counts himself on reading every day. And then appropriate and varied text materials are chosen for silent reading, as not all students at the same grade read at the same level. Like for example, you have a student for grade 1, 2, 3, and then you need to choose what texts are good for the grade 1, 2, 3. You will not choose a text from a text that good for grade 6 and then you will read it for a grade 3, because they are not the same in level. So, and the next is teacher asks a student to read silently, preferable with self-reading records. So the teacher will ask this, and then the students must really adhere herself to be honest when recording herself. It is not only for the teacher's benefit but for also the students' benefit. And the teacher moves around the class and supervises. So when the teacher requiring silent reading, it doesn't mean that after she instruct all the things in need, the teacher will just sit down. No. It is a must that the teacher will surrounds or supervises the class so that she could notice who are the student reading and who are student are not really reading the contents or the required activity. Teacher encourages adhering to self-monitoring. Yes, because in learning sometimes it's not always depending from a teacher but also for our student. We need to be independent also in order to learn more and to become more knowledgeable by helping ourselves. And then next is teacher later asks few simple or direction question ensure comprehension on the text you read, so that the teacher will know that you if that student is really read the text. And then the teacher may ask the student to summarize the read part in order to know also if the student really understand what she or he is reading. And then the entire procedure is carried on within the specified boundaries of time and content. So these are the procedure, the steps in silent reading. So again, what is silent reading? Silent reading is an individual reading or independent reading in which reading using only the eyes and mind without pronouncing word. Silent reading known in the 19th century, and it was claimed by Saint Ambrose as he invented the silent reading. Alright, let's test ourselves. In your own words, let's have answer the given questions. First question is, what is silent reading? Second, discuss the advantages and disadvantages of using silent reading. Third is, as a future educator, how you'll teach the student in silent reading. What are the do's and don'ts you will imply? So that's it. Thank you for watching and listening, and see you for our next topic to discuss. This is Teacher Elani. Have a nice day.